Welcome to Storytime with Mama V. I'm your host, Victoria, but you can call me Mama V. In this show, we go on storytime adventures where magic exists, where brave knights and courageous princesses come out to play, and where the good always defies evil. Now, get comfy, because storytime is about to begin. Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Storytime with Mama V. Pretty excited to read to you today. So, today on the show, I'm going to be reading A Mole in One. Now, this story is written by Therese Lynch, and it's a story it's a golf story. We haven't had a golf story on the show yet, so I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. Let's get right into our story of A Mole in One. Let's go. "Aim right!" Fergus shouted. He knew the golfer would miss. The golfer didn't notice Fergus. Humans only noticed moles when moles became a problem. At sunset, Fergus scurried home to his cozy burrow. He did not want to cross paths with the grouchy greenskeeper. His stompy boots made Fergus shiver. Brrr! Fergus lived with his mama and papa mole and his brothers, twins, Declan and Duncan. Fergus loved his home, but his family didn't understand him or the magical game of golf. Fergus bounded through the door. Papa Mole looked up and raised his bushy eyebrows. "Official golfing attire," said Fergus proudly. Mama Mole planted a soft kiss on his nose. Mwah! The twins laughed and pulled Fergus's cap down over his eyes. "Ha ha ha! Why don't you try digging on the course, wee Fergus?" teased Declan. "Like a real mole," Duncan added. Fergus was quiet. Grubs were his favorite, but tonight he didn't feel like eating. That night, like most nights, Fergus dreamed of the perfect shot. Whack! The ball soared to the freshly mowed green. Bounce, bounce. Ring! The sound of the alarm clock jolted Fergus right out of bed. Ignoring his brother's words, he headed to the golf course. He was determined to clobber that ball, but he had to hurry. Today was the big tournament. The golfers were coming. Behind an oak tree, Fergus and his best friend Francis Fox teed up the ball. Although much larger than him, Francis never made Fergus feel small. "4!" Fergus yelled and swung with all his might. Thwack! Ouch! Francis picked up Fergus by the velvety scruff of his neck. "Persist," she said gently. Frustrated, Fergus tried something he'd seen humans do. Francis shook her head disapprovingly. "Let's try this," Fergus urged. Francis placed him into a slingshot. Boing! "Holy moly!" Fergus shrieked as he zoomed through the air and landed in a heap of trouble. "We meet at last," snarled the greenskeeper. And the race was on. Francis led the greenskeeper away. Fergus ran as fast as his little legs could go and dove headfirst into a mole hole. Fergus popped out at the 18th hole near the pond. Mama Mole often warned her sons not to dig there. Moles are not particularly strong swimmers. "Phew," he sighed. And looked around. Right in front of him was his favorite golfer. But something else caught Fergus's eye. A bump in the grass that only someone tiny could see. He recognized his brother's work, and it was dreadful. Fergus kept closer and closer. "Eek! A mouse!" a lady shrieked and fainted. Thump! "Where?" wondered Fergus. He hardly ever saw mice on the course. He took another peek. The ball would surely break hard left. That was his last thought before, whoosh, Fergus was scooped up.
"That is not a mouse. That is far worse," explained the golfer. "That, ladies and gentlemen, is a dastardly mole. Diggers," continued the golfer, "have no place on the golf course."
Fergus squirmed in his tight grip.
"Let go of me." "How can I play golf if the holes have moles?" the golfer asked the crowd.
To himself, he murmured, "If I don't make this putt, I'm doomed." Fergus met the golfer's eyes. For a long moment, they stared. The golfer examined the tiny mole, still wearing his best golfing attire. The golfer's eyes softened. His grip loosened. A slight smile formed on his lips. Fergus saw his chance. He glanced toward the ball and tilted his head. The golfer wondered out loud. He gently placed Fergus on his shoulder. "What is it, little chap?" he whispered to Fergus. "Aim right, Mr. Mole." Fergus proudly puffed his chest. His papa was the only Mr. Mole he'd ever known. Fergus nodded excitedly. Yeah, aim right." The golfer winked. Fergus winked back. A tricky move given the smallness of his eyes. He hoped it looked all right. The golfer turned his putter slightly to the right. Fergus let out a low whistle.
"More?"
the golfer questioned. Fergus bowed. As the golfer hit the ball way right, Fergus felt his tummy roll. Glad he skipped the grubs the night before, he held his breath. The crowd was silent. Fergus noticed Frances peeking out from the tall grass. She smiled and nodded at him. At that moment, Fergus no longer needed a hole-in-one or to be a professional golfer. He simply loved the game, and that was enough. The ball slowly curled toward the cup. The greenskeeper raised his arms in excitement.
"Yay!"
The crowd gasped. Fergus didn't gasp or even watch. He knew the ball would break left and sink into the cup like he'd always dreamed. And so it did. What a beautiful story, and what a beautiful partnership between Fergus and the human golfer. At the beginning of the book, the author has a little message for the readers which says, "To all who dare to dream the dreams." I encourage you to check out this book for the illustrations, and I'll go ahead and put the link in the show notes description for you. But when I say that, as you know, this brings us to the end of our episode. Thank you so much for listening in. Listen, go do that thing you want to do. Be a golfer, be a runner, be an artist, be whoever it is that you wish to be. And I will see you on the next episode of Storytime with Mama V. Bye for now.